Garrix of St. Patrick's Catholic Church of Hudson. So all rise, please.
Good morning. I'd like to begin this morning by just sharing with you a short story. My father died 5 years ago this spring, and my father was a very staunch Republican. I'll give you a little idea of just set things in context. I remember as a little boy getting Christmas cards from Eugene McCarthy, and two of the pallbearers at my father's funeral were members of the Wisconsin State Legislature on the Republican side. When I was in 6th grade, President Carter was elected to the presidency of our country, and I remember coming home that day. My dad, a typical day, said, "Well, how is school today? What's new?" Things like that. And I said, "Well, we watched the inauguration today of the president." And I said, "Mr. Pratt, our teacher, handed out peanuts," because I said, "You know, Jimmy Carter, he was a peanut farmer." And my dad said to me, "It's President Carter." And I've always remembered that. And that it's the respect that my father had for people who serve in office. And so as we gather this day, I just wanted to share that story with you for you who serve in public office, to just let you know that, that you are really deserving of great respect, that you should have great respect from all of us for the work that you do. And so as we pray this morning, I'd like to share with you just a little passage from the Gospel of Matthew. "You have heard that it was said, 'You should love your neighbor and hate your enemy.' But I say to you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you, that you may be called children of your heavenly Father. For he makes the sun rise on the bad and the good, and causes rain to fall on the just and the unjust. For if you love those who love you, what recompense will you have? Do not the tax collectors do the same?" And so we pray to you, Almighty God, on this holy week of Holy Weeks, that we might always love each other with a sense of profound respect, especially those who offer service to us, those who step forward to offer their gifts, their abilities and talents, that they might indeed have our respect as they seek to serve the common good. And Lord, we ask you to certainly bless those who are gathered here this day in a role of decision making, that your Spirit will rest upon them, that as they make decisions on our behalf, that they will turn to you for guidance and wisdom. And Lord, we just pray for our community, that we might certainly always reach out to those who are most vulnerable, those who are in need. And Lord, that we might remember you this week as we commemorate not only your death and passion, but also your resurrection. And we make this prayer through Christ our Lord. Amen.
Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. Cindy, we'll have roll call now, please. You want to explain that?
I'm going to give you a quick lesson on the roll call. We didn't demonstrate that Thursday night at the orientation. Sorry. There it is. All of you have a little remote in front of you. It's by district number. Make sure you have your own district number at the bottom. Your voter number, and then it's your district number. To indicate your presence, you press yes, which is also your present button, and press confirm at the bottom. Okay. And then I'll proceed. You can't vote until I proceed. Voting on a motion, it's yes or no, and always confirm, or you can abstain. There's a request to speak, which is not enabled, so you cannot use that. You need to be called on by the chair. And then if you second a motion, you need to put in your second after the motion has been put in, and you'll see it at the top. So it's just a quick lesson on that, and we'll go through it. Also, a reminder before you speak, turn on your microphones. Thank you.
Thank you. All 19 supervisors are present. We will move on to the oath of office, and we have our judges here today to take care of that. Thank you.
Good morning, and certainly on behalf of my colleagues, congratulations to all of you on your election to the position of County Board Supervisors. Certainly the citizens of your districts have expressed their confidence in your leadership, as well as your ability to manage and certainly act as stewards of the county's resources. Because we have so many new County Board members, I'll do some introductions. First, I'm Scott Needham. I'm Circuit Court Judge Branch 3. There won't be a test when this is all done, so I'm just by way of trying to explain. I'm serving my 4th term and live in New Richmond. I'm also the Chief Judge of the 10th Judicial District, which includes administrative supervision of the 13 counties in northwest Wisconsin, 27 other trial judges, 25 municipal judges, 13 clerks of court, 29 court reporters, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm privileged, obviously, to be joined by my colleagues. To my immediate right is Judge Howard Cameron, who is Branch 4 and was just elected at the same time you were to his 2nd term as a judge. To my immediate left is Judge Eric Lindell, who, again, many of you know from both his service as a district attorney in this county for many years, but I think also was elected I know he was elected last Tuesday, but to his 5th term as a judge in this county. He also serves as presiding judge, which means he's the administrative judge in St. Croix County. And then finally, to my far left is Judge Ed Vlack, who is serving, I believe, in his 3rd term, but also serves as our drug court judge as well as our juvenile treatment court judge. So that's by way of introduction, and certainly I would encourage the continued partnership that we've had with the County Board over many, many years, as well as expanding upon those opportunities that we have to work together and that relationship which we've enjoyed with you. So with that said, we're going to administer the oath. I believe you all have written copies in front of you, and we will repeat it with you. But when we say "I state your name," you will state your name. Don't say "state your name." So that's the only part of the oath that you will have to improvise on and indicate your name. And then finally, we will indicate simply County Supervisor District, and then you'll fill in the blank with whatever district you have been elected from. So with that said, if you'll all stand, please, and raise your right hands and repeat after us. I state your name,
Roger Larson,
having been elected to the office of County Supervisor District,
11.
swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States
Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin,
and the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin,
and will faithfully and impartially
and will faithfully and impartially
discharge the duties of said office
discharge the duties of said office
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability.
so help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
So I'm going to ask you to sign your oaths, and I'm going to collect them so I can send them back up to the judges to sign. So I'll get them from you sometime or pass them my way. Thank you.
We need, at this time, we'll have the administrator's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Vice Chair, and congratulations to the newly sworn-in County Board Supervisors, both new and returning. Look forward to working with you on lots of various projects, some of which you will hear about today, and as the standing committees are formed going forward, a lot of the work that the committees will be doing will be updating the committees on various projects as they relate to your standing committees. Just a couple of items to speak to, and then Tabitha Hanson, the Finance Director, will give us a brief summary of the monthly financial reports. The strategic planning effort that the County Board has embarked on over the past year and a half, seeing as we have 10 new board members, 9 returning, I'm going to be asking the new chairman, whoever is elected chair this morning, to schedule a committee of the whole meeting sometime in the month of May. And the purpose of that meeting will be to review the county's strategic plan. The staff has begun a process of updating the strategic plan. We had planned to meet with department heads actually tomorrow to discuss some of the preliminary work on the updated strategic plan. But the board needs to be, and I welcome the board's participation in that process. And so we're going to slow it down a little bit, schedule a committee of the whole meeting with the new board, hopefully within the month of May, and we'll go through the existing strategic plan and then have the new board's input into the updated plan, because this is your plan, and it creates a roadmap and direction for not only the county administrator's office but also all department heads in terms of fulfilling the board's mission in terms of your vision and your plan. And so that will take place during the month of May, and we'll get that scheduled and let you know well in advance of when that will be. We're also working on a 5-year capital improvement plan. This was part of the county administrator's goals for this year. The financial staff and departments have been providing input into the 5-year capital improvement plan. This will be presented to you in the month of June. The newly formed Committee on Administration will review the capital improvement plan in the month of May and have their input into it, and then we'll bring it forward to the county board in June of this year. As you form standing committees this morning, one of the first items that each standing committee will take up is a brief orientation of that standing committee. We went through an overall board orientation last week, and we had, a little bit of exposure towards each standing committee. But once the committees are formed and you are seated on a standing committee, you'll probably be meeting within the next several weeks. The department heads that are part of that standing committee will prepare a brief orientation in more detail regarding the various departments that are part of that standing committee, and an update on projects that are ongoing and future projects that down the road for each of the committees. It'll be more in depth than what we had last week, and that will take place at your committee meetings in the next month. The other commissions and boards that by statute the county administrator needs to make appointments to will be done next month in May. So the only appointments that I will make this morning are to the Health and Human Services Board and the Aging and Disability Resource Center Board. And that is by board rule that these appointments be made next month. If you look in Article 8 of your bylaws, you don't have to do this right now, but look at Article 8, and it defines all the boards and commissions that I need to make appointments to. The reason I bring this up is that I need to have some indication from board members which of those committees you would like to serve on. I would prefer to populate these committees with board members that are really interested in that subject matter. Several of you have already spoken to me about that, but go through Article 8 sometime in the next day or two and either email me or call and say, Pat, I'd kind of like to serve on the, Bass Lake Rehab District, whatever. There's several of them, and it touches on lots of areas of the county. So there's lots of ways to get involved, and so we'll do that next month. This is Telecommunicator Week. For those of you that didn't know, it's a national recognition for our 911 dispatchers, and they're recognized nationally. Yesterday evening, we had a brief ceremony with the dispatchers and the staff. Those that were there were presented Years of Service awards. They were presented letters of commendation and other awards for meritorious service. It was a nice little ceremony. Also, as part of Telecommunicator Week, we will be hosting an open house in the newly configured 911 dispatch center downstairs this evening between the hours of 4 p.m. and 6 p.m. Those of you that are free during those hours between 4 and 6, stop down, enter the building from the lower level in the back, and those doors will be open, and the newly remodeled EOC is right to the left as you come in, and we're gonna join. We'll meet there, and then Terry and Kristen and the staff will take you through in small groups through the dispatch center. We actually can't go right into the dispatch center because of security reasons, but there's windows, and you'll be able to see. You'll be able to get a good idea of what's going on. The dispatchers do an awesome job, and some of the awards that were handed out last night, I spoke briefly at the ceremony, and it really puts things in perspective, and their jobs are vitally important, critically important, and they're kind of tucked away, and we don't hear much about that line of work, but really they're the lifeline for services in the area of public safety for St. Croix County. They're the first person on the line when those calls are made. They have to make sure that they're dealing with that person along with dispatching the appropriate response units to help those people in need. So if you see telecommunicators this evening or any time, just say thanks, for a job well done. We're in the process of recruiting for an IT director. The administration committee, newly formed committee, will be briefed on that in more detail as that process moves along, but I just wanted to let the board know that we are recruiting for an IT director. It's a very critical, important position for this organization. The administration committee will be briefed, as I said, and the final candidate, once we go through the process, will be brought to the county board for confirmation. And then lastly, at our May 6th county board meeting, we're asking the board members to show up a little bit early from 5 to 6:30. We meet at 7 on May 6th. But if we can convene at 5 p.m., we'll go through the new e-board system. It's tied in with all the technology that we see here. It will be a new process of voting and tabulating votes and minutes, and it's a pretty neat system. But we need to spend some time with you to brief you on that and train you. So if you can show up at 5 o'clock, we'll have staff here to help with that process. That is all I have Mr. Vice Chair, at this point, I'd like to turn it over to our Finance Director, who will give us a brief summary on 2013 and 2014 year-to-date. I'll only say a few words and then I'll turn it over to Tabitha. The year-end 2013, we ended on a positive fiscal note. If you look at the bottom line, total budget revenues exceeded expenditures by approximately $1 million. So we ended 2013, of course this is unaudited, but all preliminary reports showing us ending on a very positive fiscal note for 2013. Here again, it shows the fiscal responsibility of the County Board of Supervisors and the financial department staff in working with departments to make sure that things are in line on a monthly basis. And it's good news that we ended 2013 in such a strong fiscal position. St. Croix County remains the fastest growing county in the state of Wisconsin, and we have a reputation as being leaders in the state of Wisconsin in a lot of different areas. And for us to be able to remain the fastest growing county in the state and still provide excellent service and leadership at all levels in the organization and still stay within the bottom line positively in terms of the budget speaks very highly for St. Croix County. So it's a good news report. Tabitha can answer any questions you might have regarding that. So thank you.
Thank you, Pat, for your report.
First in your packet is the February report for 2014. Just a couple comments that we budget annually and not all expenses occur on a 1/12 basis. So you're seeing in the year-to-date budget column, the first column, that's 2 months of our budget. If you scroll down and look at like the economic development line, that shows 150% because we're billed quarterly. We had to make the payment. The EDRC is another one that's 210%. What they did is they made their budgeted long-term care payment of $376,005 in February. So why on a month-to-month basis they may appear over, annually they're spot on. Risk management, you know we have insurance policy premiums you have to pay at the first part of the year. Those are paid as budgeted, but it sometimes makes the variance percent seem a little higher. The revenues are through February. Typically, we receive our payments from the state on a slight delayed basis. We get some prepayments in January and the remainder come in the month of typically March. So some of the revenues are lagging a little behind, but nothing out of the norm. The third page of that is just updating the 2014 capital and the status on it. Do you have any questions on February, or I'll jump back to December of 2013? This is an updated report from when the board last saw it in March. Felt it was important to give you the updated version because we had a February 18th was our cutoff for final expenses. March 31st is our cutoff for revenues. So any revenues that come in after March 31st, we actually post into the new year and we do a journal entry back. So the revenue portion, I anticipate will slightly change. On revenues, any positive variance above 100% is always a good thing. A lot of the state and federal reimbursements are yet to come. Typically, all the final reports are due in March, so we submitted final reports in March of 2014 for 2013, so some more additional revenue should be coming in. On the expense side, for December of the 2013 budget, just a couple of key things. We had our significant murder trial expense last year. Those overall, while some departments may appear over in one area or another, there are others that are under that can offset that. Our emergency support services line looks like it's 104%. Part of that is due to our 911 communication center. We had staff vacancies, we had medical leave, so you have to backfill that department 24/7. Another example is highway. We have the winter that never ends, and I believe snows in our forecast for tomorrow. So we're seeing overage in some of our highway areas. We're seeing what they do when they have a heavy winter like we do. It takes a hit. You know, we're about $200,000 to $300,000 over. What they do is do adjustments and reduce back on projects. So in other areas of the highway budget, you'll see, we typically see, increased service maintenance. We have a lot of potholes they're trying to get out filling, do some crack filling, mowing and brushing as they're able. All of those lead to it higher. The nursing home does look like it's over. Their year-to-date 2013 is 4.614 million, but their revenue is 4.607, a difference of $7,000. So the nursing home budget is coming up pretty much right on target. We've already had that audit for the year, and everything's looking really good. Any other questions? You have your expense, your revenue, and then again, the final 2013 capital. Some of the 2013 capital we are going to have to carry forward into the new year. We were not able to complete the Health and Human Services software in 2013, so that'll finish in 2014.
Are there any questions for Tabitha? If no questions, thank you, Tabitha, for a good report. We will move on now to the consent agenda. And we have approval of the minutes from March 4th, 2014, 9 a.m. And the date of our next meeting, which will be May 6th, 2014 at 7 p.m. And Pat wants us here at 5 for that, so we can go through some work on the new system we have in place. So at this time, I need a motion to approve the consent agenda. In a second. Supervisor Peavy. Supervisor Brinkman, thank you. Is there any discussion?
Point of order, Roger. Would the new members be permitted to vote? Would you see that we would abstain, or what's the protocol for new members that weren't in attendance at that meeting?
I think the new members can vote.
Core Council says new members can vote on this. So if there's no discussion, I'll ask for a vote. Everybody can enter their vote. We have one abstained. I don't know the reason why. I wasn't there. Is that
He can
acceptable?
abstain if he wants.
What?
He can abstain.
Okay, you can abstain. Okay. It was 18-1, then the vote was, so it's approved. Thank you. Now we move into our public comment section for items that are not on the agenda. So if there's anybody from the public that wants to address the board on a subject that's not on the agenda, they can do that at this time. And I don't see anybody coming forward. I didn't see any slips coming forward, so I guess at this time we'll have to move on then. Thank you. Now we're going to have the presentation on recognitions for all the supervisors that have gone off the board at this time. And I believe Pat was going to do something here. And
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. Members of the board, by tradition, the St. Croix County Board of Supervisors recognizes board members leaving the board for their years of service. We invited outgoing board members to attend this morning's meeting, and I think we have two here. Those members will be recognized. I'll also recognize the others that aren't here, and will mail those certificates to their homes. The first member is former Supervisor Tom Hawksford. Mr. Hawksford served one term, and from 2012 to 2014. Tim Hood, who served one term as well, 2012 to 2014. Fred Horn served 3 terms from 2008 to 2014. Then the 2 Hurchin brothers, Brian Hurchin, served from 2006 to 2008, and then came back on the board and served from 2010 to 2014. His brother Joe served from 2006 to 2014, 4 terms. Richard Otino served 1 term from 2012 to 2014. Dwayne Russett also served 1 term, 2012 to 2014. And Fred Yorg served from 2012 to 2014, 1 term. I think we have 2 gentlemen here this morning. I'll start with Buck Malick. Buck served on the board from 1990 through 1994. And then he came back on the board in the year 2000 and served up until the recent election, 2014. Buck served on several committees. I'll just mention a few: Public Protection, the Government Jail Study, Special Building Committee, Administration, Department of Aging, Federated Library, Planning, Zoning, Parks, West Central Community Action Agency, the Finance Committee, Emergency, Government, Finance, Board of Adjustment, Transportation, Western Wisconsin I-94 Corridor Study Coalition, the Willow River Rehab District, and he also served as County Board Chair from 2002 through 2006. So join me in congratulating Buck Malick.
Please sit down. I'm sorry that somebody had to spend so much time doing all that research. That's maybe a really good argument for term limits, just to save on the research. Huh? You'll be very frustrated at times. You new members probably have that to look forward to. People don't tell you that when you're running for fear that you won't run. But you'll learn patience, and that's all for the good, I'm sure. Keep in mind, it's not about us, it's about God's people. Thank you.
The last gentleman needs no introduction, Darrell Stanifer. Darrell served on the board from 1994 through 2014. He was on several committees representing Waste Management, the Building Committee, Administration, Economic Development, the ITBEC rep, the Personnel Committee, Finance Committee, Wisconsin Counties Association, Ad Hoc Negotiations, and Building Facilities. He served as County Board Chair from 2010 through 2014. Please join me in congratulating Darrell Stanifer for his years of service. Thank you.
I doubt that any of you can fully appreciate how hard it was for me to come here this morning. But I knew that not to come would be disrespectful. I have great respect and admiration for this institution and for the people that I've been privileged to serve with over the years, especially former county board chairs Bob Bolke and Tom Dorsey and Roger Rebholz and my colleague, Buck Malik. I remind you that April is actually County Government Month, not only nationally in cooperation with the National Association of Counties, but in St. Croix County, and I was pleased to sign a proclamation indicating that last month. I have great respect for this institution and for the people that I've been privileged to serve with, not only employees, but also department heads and constitutional officers, and especially our county administrator, Pat Thompson. My life has been enriched by serving with people of talent and dedication and professionalism. The unknown author of the book of Ecclesiastes, unknown even though the historical evidence would seem to indicate that it was King Solomon, in his later years reflected back and took stock of the world as he observed it, between the horizons of birth and death. And he observed that there is a time for everything, and a season under the sun for every activity under heaven. And then he went on, and I paraphrase, to observe that there is a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to uproot, a time to speak and a time to be silent, a time for peace, a time for war. That ancient wisdom helps me put in perspective the fact that there was a time for me to join the county board 20 years ago, and now there's a time for me to depart. It's your turn. I ask that you do good work that is honorable and just and pleasing to God, and I ask His blessing on your work.
I'd like to say thank you to all the supervisors that are off the board now, and how we appreciated working, and I appreciated working with all of them at the time. And so thank you very much from me personally. I think it was enjoyable all the time I spent working, and I learned a lot in the last 6 years being on the board. So thank you, all the supervisors. Now we have to move on to elections. I have to appoint a couple tellers for that. I'm going to, Corp Counsel Scott Cox and Elizabeth Roll will do the tellers. And then I'm going to appoint Scott Cox as the pro tem, because I'm running for chair, so I'm going to step down and move back in the audience further. I'll turn it over to Scott at this time.
Now, as Chair Pro Tem running the election for the County Board Chair, I would call for the nominations of County Board Chair. Supervisor Peterson.
Mr. Chair, I would like to nominate Agnes Ring.
Agnes Ring, District 2 is nominated. Any other nominations for Chair? Supervisor Solberg.
I would like to nominate Roger Larson for County Chair.
Roger Larson has been nominated. Any other nominations? Once, twice. I'll declare that nominations are closed. At this time, the nominees will address the board by responding to questions in the rules and bylaws under Article 2. The three questions are as follows. As County Board Chair, what will be your major objectives and priorities? If you are elected, are there things you will try to change or do differently as county board chair? And the third question is, how would you describe the style you will use in working with your fellow supervisors, county committees, county administrator, and other staff? Since Supervisor Ring was nominated first, I would ask her to respond to the questions, and I can repeat them. As County Board Chair, what will be your major objectives and priorities?
Well, as County Board Chair, what I would like to see I would like to see that this board be respected by the 84,000 residents of the county. I would like us to be a collaborative group. I'd like to set the tone that this body is respected for the good work that it does, and that our respect is between one another. It's with the staff and with everyone that we interact with. So when someone has an interaction with the county, whatever it is, that it's just one of integrity and honesty and, you know, innovation and collaboration.
Should I alternate with Roger? And Mr. Supervisor Larson, as County Board Chair, what will be your major objectives and priorities?
I guess at this time, some of my priorities are working with people from our ag community and trying to retain our ag building in Baldwin, working closer with the federal agencies down there to support that so we can stay in that area in the center of St. Croix County so that they have a place to go and do their work and they don't have to move around to different areas to do that. The nursing home is a big issue with all of St. Croix County at this time. I think we have to work close with that, try to get that taken care of. It's been voted on several times, and we've come before the board, and I think we have to do something with that and get that resolved and have I think like a 26-room assisted living with that would work well. We have to work closer with the residents of St. Croix County so that we are better informed on what they want. That's important to me. I think we have to talk more and listen more to what the residents have to say. And I guess that's where I'm coming from, and we have to do a good job as a board just to confirm that and take care of those problems that we have. So, thank you.
Supervisor Ring, the second question. If you are elected, are there things you will try to change or do differently as County Board Chair?
One thing that I've thought of in response to that question is, or that came to mind, is on our work with the Community Development Committee. One thing I think that we do very well is just engage the public and provide opportunities for input into policies that would affect them. And that's something I think that we can do, maybe have a citizen participation plan for other things. So we invite more engagement. It just seems like people want more information, or they feel like they haven't had an opportunity to provide input on policies. And so I think that is one, maybe a little change in focus that I would like to see.
Thank you. Supervisor Larson, if you are elected, are there things that you would try to change or do differently as County Board Chair?
Thank you. I think really just listen to what the people have to say more and try to get back on level, I guess, so we're working closer with the people out there so we know what they want and do a good job of, I guess, supporting what they really need out there. We do a good job on the board, but I think we have to listen a little closer to what we're being told by our constituents. And that's, you know, we're elected to districts, but we really serve all 84,000 in the county, and I think that's, have an open door and just listen to what they say. Thank you.
Thank you. And the third question, Supervisor Ring, how would you describe your style you will use in working with your fellow supervisors, county committees, county administrator, and other staff?
I think my style is collaborative. I think it's important to listen. I try to listen. I think my style is also to look long-term and be strategic. In our role as policymakers, I think our job is to have a vision for the future. And so we need to be thinking, you know, we need to be thinking years ahead. And sometimes that's hard to do. And I think that's what I would like to encourage. The other thing I would like is, and I think I just reiterate what I said before, just a very respectful atmosphere. That's what I think is just really important. I want robust discussions. And at the end, I want deliberation on issues. I love differing opinions. I think that's just really, really healthy, and I'd like to encourage that. The decisions we make influence the character and quality of life of this county, and again, I just wanted to encourage a process that gives us, that is one of integrity, and that we respect one another, and we respect everyone that we work with, and that's very clear to the public.
Thank you. And Supervisor Larson, how would you describe the style you will use in working with your fellow supervisors, county committees, county administrator, and other staff?
And I guess I think it's important to have an open door policy so that you can talk to all the supervisors, all the departments, county administrator and staff. I think you have to be able to talk well with them and have an open door so they're, whenever they want to talk, if they want to call you, talk at any time, go through issues. Not that we can solve them any quicker, but I think you have to have an open door so you can really have a spot where you can get together, talk, go through issues that need to be discussed on a one-on-one. Sometimes that has to be done. Sometimes you have to leave it open. You could be very careful on talking about some issues so you don't talk about issues or you could have a quorum. But I think the integrity of the whole board and to be able to talk to people, and I enjoy talking to people as a whole. Just if somebody has a problem, they come up and talk, and I think that's important. Just get it out on the table. Sometimes you are a little hesitant to do that, but I think having an open door and being able to talk freely to anybody on any problems they have it helps in the long run. So I guess that's where I'm coming from, just to have an open door so anybody can come in and talk at any time. Thank you.
Thank you. The voting will be by secret ballot. I believe the clerk has ballots prepared. The tellers, I'm a teller as well. If no one objects, I will also pass out the ballots along with Ms. Roll. Cindy, how do you want them to go? Last name? Okay. One name. I'll go this side. I would use her last name. And then Cindy, when they're done, you want them to fold it?
Hold it, and then I just, if you want to collect them. Let's do one. Collect them, and you want to just grab them.
The results are Larson, 14 votes, Ring, 5 votes. Congratulations.
Thank you, everyone. I really appreciate this. It's an honor to serve on this board, and it's an honor to be chair now. I really appreciate everybody's vote of confidence, so thank you very much. Now we have to move on to, we need nominations for vice chair. I have nominations. Yes,
I'd like to nominate Dave Osnes.
Dave Osnes. Do I have another nominations? Any other nominations? Any other nominations? Yes, Supervisor Stone.
So we can have a choice. I'd like to nominate Jill Berkey.
Okay. Okay, Chris, so we have Dave and Chris. Do we have any other nominations? Do we have any other nominations?
You can declare them closed.
What?
You can declare the nominations closed.
Yep. And I'll declare nominations closed. We'll have a vote by secret ballot.
I'll start at Supervisor Osnes.
Thank you.
Point of order, Mr. Chair.
Excuse me?
When I nominated Jill Burke, I think you had repeated the name as being Chris, but
Oh, excuse me, I
that
didn't
was
hear
just
that. Sorry.
an oversight.
So Jill. Oops. She gotta get this one.
I'm gonna let her pick it up.
Okay. Remind me when I don't hear something. Right, correct.
And the results are 12 votes for Osnes, 6 for Berkey, and 1 for no one. Nobody, actually. So the winner is Supervisor Osnes. Congratulations.
Thank you, everyone. Now we'll move forward to our appointments. We'll have Pat Thompson step forward, the administrator, for his board appointments.
Congratulations Supervisor Larson and Osnes on your new positions as chair and vice chair. I look forward to working with you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
The appointments for the Health and Human Services Board, there are 4 county board supervisor seats to be filled and 1 citizen appointment. There are 2 appointments that will fulfill 3-year terms. The terms on the Health and Human Services Boards are 3 years. 2 of the county board supervisor seats on the Health and Human Services Board are filling out 2 terms of Tim Hood and Fred Yorg. Their terms actually had 1 year left in their terms. So the terms on the Health and Human Services Board are staggered 3-year terms so that all seats don't come open at one point, at one in time. And then there's 1 citizen appointment for a 3-year term. My appointments need to be confirmed by the board. They are as follows. Fulfilling a 3-year term, 2014 through 2017, Christopher Babbitt, Supervisor Babbitt, for a 3-year term. The second 3-year term, 2014 through 2017, Supervisor Paulette Anderson, for a 3-year term. 2 1-year terms. The first is Supervisor Soyberg. Supervisor Soyberg for a term of 2014 through 2015. And then the 1 remaining 1-year term, 2014 through 2015, Supervisor Liebfried, Shayla Liebfried, for a 1-year term beginning 2014 through 2015. So it's Supervisor Babbitt, Supervisor Anderson, Supervisor Soyberg, Supervisor Liebfried. The 1 citizen appointment, I will recommend the reappointment of Leon Berenschott. Leon is a current member of the board. His seat expires. I recommend his appointment for a 3-year term beginning 2014. I submit those nominations for board confirmation.
I need a motion to go forward with this.
I'll move confirmation.
Yep, Supervisor Ring made the motion. Second, Supervisor Peterson.
Mr. Chair, I would move that we split the nominations as this candidate would not like to participate on that board at this time. So rather than it being confirmed in 1 slate, I would ask that the board split the slate that was selected so we can confirm them 1 at a time.
So you'd prefer not?
That's a motion. That's my
motion?
Motion to split the nomination slate.
Motion to
Or
split
the
the
appointment
nominations. I have a second to that. Second from Supervisor Kistler. Any discussion on that?
If I could, I have my heart set on a different committee, and given my full-time position as a lawyer, I think the Health and Human Services Board requires a lot of time too, and I can't split myself.
Okay.
So that's why I'd like to split the ballot here.
I can appreciate that, so. Any other discussion? We'll have a vote on that then.
Are you voting on, sorry, one appointment or one term? Are you splitting the appointments each?
You're voting on each appointment.
Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
maybe to simplify this, I anticipated that we may have, I had planned for this in advance, that we might have one or two that declined, and so I will, at this point, and Scott, you know, if this is out of order, tell me, but I would substitute Supervisor Novotny for the seat, or for the nomination of Supervisor Soyberg. I had Supervisor Novotny next in line for that appointment, so I would substitute that. Try to simplify it.
is that okay to do something like that? We have a motion on the floor. We can see if there,
I think that since the slate has been amended, a motion to amend the nominations to replace Solberg with Novotny would be in order.
I have Supervisor Schachner first.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking that we would need to do is I would like to amend the motion so it is replacing Supervisor Schoberg with Supervisor Novotny.
Okay.
I would
Supervisor Bushing, yes,
second that.
second that. So we have a motion, but we had a motion on the floor first. We have to act on that first, correct?
This will amend the nomination, so you need to act on this motion now.
Okay. So does everybody know what that motion is? Cindy, you want to repeat that so they're aware of it?
Point of order. Supervisor Schoberg should withdraw his motion before we move forward with business.
What motion did he have?
I'll ask.
I'd be happy to withdraw my motion with the consent of the entire body.
Is that all right to do that? That will get everything off the floor, correct?
That doesn't get everything off the floor. It gets the division issue off the floor.
Right. So I'd have to ask the body at this time if they're all right with Supervisor Schoberg removing his motion. Is that all right with everybody? If everybody's all right with that, we can do that. And we don't have to have a vote on that, do we?
No.
So, okay, that'll be removed. So now we still have the motion on the floor to amend, correct? Or does that
Correct.
take care of that?
Correct.
So we still have that motion to amend. So now we have to vote. Is there any discussion on that? Yes, Supervisor.
I'd like Cindy to repeat the motion.
Sure, Cindy, can you repeat that?
I have a motion by Schachner, second by Berkey, to amend the appointment to remove Schoberg and replace with Novotny.
Okay.
Jill, I need you to put your second in. If you could put second and confirm, please.
Okay, is there any discussion on that? If there's no discussion, I'll ask for a vote on that at this time. Supervisor Ring? Okay. Okay, that was 100% on that, so all 19. So now we're back to where, now we have to adopt the appointments with Novotny in there. Chris Babbitt, Paulette Anderson, and Liebfried in there. So Now, what? And Leon Bertha, yes. Okay. Now we need any discussion on that? Okay.
I'd like to have a motion to
We
approve.
already had a motion. So we already had that in a second. So is there any discussion? If no discussion, we'll have a vote on that now. Did you get the second?
Supervisor Ring made the motion, second by Peterson.
Yeah. And that was a unanimous vote too. Thank you.
Do you want to call a break at some point?
Yeah, it's, want to handle these others and then we'll take a break?
Yes, you have, okay.
Okay. The next appointments are for the Council on Aging and Disability, citizen appointments and county board supervisor appointments. I'll start with the citizen appointments to the Council on Aging and Disability. First appointment is James Schreiber from Hudson. The second is Virginia Drath from Emerald, Wisconsin. The third is Alfred Schrank from Glenwood City. The fourth is Patricia Jonas from New Richmond. And the fifth citizen appointment is Leon Barenschott from the Glenwood City area. The three county board representatives for the Council on Aging and Disability. The first appointment is Supervisor Paulette Anderson. The second is Supervisor Ron Kiesler. And the third is Supervisor Dave Osnes.
I need a motion to approve this. Supervisor Brinkman and Supervisor Peterson second.
I do your motion.
Any discussion? If no discussion, it's time to vote. And unanimous, 19. Thank you. At this time, it's been kind of lengthy. Would you like to take a little recess for a little bit? So we'll, if it's okay with everybody, we'll call a recess. What? 10-minute recess, that'll be fine. We're going to move out of recess and back into session again now. And at this time, we're going to do the election of the standing committees.
I'd like to make a
Yes.
motion, Mr. Chair.
Yes, Supervisor Kastler, go ahead.
And the motion is to suspend the bylaws that select standing committees by random order and instead seat the standing committees in alphabetical order, namely admin, community development, public protection, and then transportation.
Okay, there's a
I'll
motion.
second the motion.
Motion seconded by Supervisor Hanson. Is there any discussion? Did everybody hear what was said?
It's not debatable.
It's not debatable, so we need a two-thirds vote on this to approve this. So it's not debatable, so everybody has to vote at this time. I guess I don't have a problem with it. We're going to start with the administration committee, so we need nominations for that board or committee. Yes, Supervisor Kistler.
I nominate Roy Silberg.
Yes.
Nominate Bill Peavy.
Yes, Ms. Supervisor Peavy. Yes, Supervisor Nielsen.
I'd like to nominate Chris Gilbert.
Yes, Mr. Nels.
I nominate Travis Schachner.
I nominate Steve Nielsen. I nominate Paulette Anderson. Excuse me, I made a mistake on that. I meant to say Judy Ochterhoff. I'm sorry.
Judy? Yes, Supervisor Daley.
I nominate Ron Kiesler.
Yes.
I'd like to nominate Jill Berkey.
Are there any other nominations? Yes. Dave.
Agnes Ring.
Any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? Any other? No further nominations, we will have a vote then, so. What? Yep, you're only voting for 5. So, excuse me.
Nominations are shown in yellow.
Okay.
Explain that, Tabitha.
It's just the spreadsheet up top is just gonna be a tallying method, so you can see whoever's highlighted in yellow, and then I'll tally it and show you a summary as to far as who's on, like, these are the members that are already appointed to the Health and Human Services Board, so we can track who's on what board or committee as we go forward.
Possible to increase the font size?
To increase it, then I cut off the names on the bottom. It's this, I can try to make it a little better.
You didn't pick mine up last time anyway, so I didn't. Here you go. Thank you, okay. She forgets more than
Okay. For the new county board members, if you go to IT today, you have an envelope on your desk if you haven't already done so. Sometime today, preferably before you leave, to set up your email account, your district email account. Mary Vadnais in IT is in the conference room. She's available to help you to do that. So I apologize I didn't do it, announce it earlier before the break, but if you can do that before you leave today. Thanks. You'll need an employee to help you get back there because it's secured.
Just so everybody knows, it's on the board up here. When you speak, turn your speakers on. So you have to do that so they get it recorded.
Do we record them all, probably? Right.
Okay, it looks like we have Supervisor Berkey, Arkanoff, Kiesler, Soberg, and Schachner are on the administration committee. So now we will move on. Excuse me?
You can move on to the next community development.
Yeah, to community development, so we need 5 members. So I need people nominated for, yes.
I'd like to nominate Agnes Ring. Agnes Ring.
Yes, Novotny.
I'd like to nominate Julianne Berkey.
Community development,
Yes.
sorry.
Nominate Dan Hansen.
Dan Hansen. Yes.
I'd like to nominate Shayla Liebfried. Liebfried, she just taught me how to say it.
I'd like to nominate Judy Oxerhoff. Did I say that right?
Supervisor Kessler? You have one? Yes, Supervisor Ring.
I'd like to nominate Andy Brinkman.
Any other nominations? No other nominations? No other nominations, then we will vote for the community development. Close the nominations, and we'll have a vote.
I don't want to be on there. What?
You have to withdraw.
You can turn it
You
down.
have to
It's
respect
too
the
late. Turn
board.
it down.
Six.
I'll just vote for the others.
Yep. Sure. See the last one.
Yes.
Okay, we have 5 members for community development. Supervisor Ring, Ann Hansen, Berkey, Arkenhoff, and Liebfried. So we have that committee taken care of, so
Right here.
Joe can't be nominated.
yeah, we have, we have to look at some of these when like Supervisor Berkey, Arkenhoff, they're on 2 committees already, so they can't be nominated for another committee. They can serve on 2. What? Yeah, no more than 2. So now we need nominations now for public protection. So the floor is open for Supervisor.
From public protection, outright.
Supervisor Liebfeld, go ahead.
I nominate Scott Nelson.
I'll nominate Roger Larson.
Supervisor Hanson.
I nominate, I need to say this right. I have my Chris's mixed up. Chris Babbitt.
Any other nominations? We need, yes.
Larson?
Yes.
Could I nominate Ron Kiesler? I don't know, can you?
Any other nominations?
It don't work.
No other nominations? No other nominations? Then we'll have the vote on this. Close nominations.
Could you repeat the nomination? My ego, I have a heck of a time.
You what?
See this light and see it.
You can't see me. You gotta read the nominations.
Okay.
You can't read.
Nominations are Supervisor Brinkman, Supervisor Babbitt, Supervisor Larson, Supervisor Kiesler, Supervisor Nelson, and Supervisor Nielsen. Is that okay?
do.
You know, it's probably important for all the new members to start going to some of these.
Sure.
Know what's going on and get back there.
I'm going to just give you a reminder on the Wisconsin Counties Association workshop. If anybody's interested, to let me know if you plan to attend, and I'll register you online. Once we know who plans to attend, we'll work out some sort of carpooling to see if that works for everybody. But again, that's May 7th in Eau Claire. I believe it starts at 8 a.m. and it's an all-day workshop. Oh, I don't know when I have to register you by. I guess if you could let me know today or tomorrow, I'd appreciate it. And then there's also a district meeting coming up with regard for WCA. That is in Eau Claire for this district on April 24th at 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. And I'm really not sure what goes on there. Roger has attended that before. So if you're interested, just let me know, and I'll talk to Roger about that. That's a district, WCA district meeting. And I have information I'll just distribute to you for that.
Okay, we had Supervisor Brinkman with 19, Chris Babbitt with 14, Roger Larson 19, Scott Nelson with 17, and Supervisor Nielsen with 18. So we have the 5 members there. What?
Read them off one more.
Okay. We have Andy Brinkman, Supervisor Brinkman with 19, Supervisor Babbitt with 14, Supervisor Larson with 19, Supervisor Nelson with 17, and Supervisor Nielsen with 18. So we have our 5 members for public protection. So now we have to look at the ones that don't have a committee that they're on yet. It looks like Supervisor Osnes. What?
He's on, yeah.
Supervisor Peterson. Supervisor Novotny. And I guess.
Howard's
What?
Howard's on one. He was appointed to HHS.
Oh, he's appointed, okay. So the only one that isn't is, yep, Supervisor Peavy isn't, so he has to be on the one for transportation. And Supervisor Peterson, what?
Yeah, Peterson.
Supervisor Peterson has to be on for transportation. And Supervisor Osnes has to be on for transportation. And then, because they have to sit on one. So now we're
You need to vote for 2.
open for nominations. You see, what?
So you got
And you shouldn't nominate someone that's already on.
No, shouldn't have nominated, yeah, well, anybody that's on 2 committees should not be nominated for this either, so. So nominations are open. Supervisor Trotner.
I don't remember if Supervisor Kilber was also on a committee. I don't think he. Oh, he's on HHS.
Yeah, if you look at the HHS appointments over there.
Supervisors on a one-year term in HHS.
Right.
And are they only on that one-year term?
Right.
So what happens when they're done with their term?
They'd be
Reelected?
reappointed.
Okay, but they have to be done.
Yeah.
I think they'd have to be reappointed to the Health and Human Services Board
Yeah.
if they weren't on another committee next year. Right. So are we,
So nominations are open because we still need some members for that Transportation Committee. Yes, Supervisor Novotny.
I nominate Scott Nelson.
Yes, Miss Supervisor Nelson.
I nominate Dave Peterson.
He's already on. It's automatic, he has to be on that one. Yes. Any other nominations? Any other nominations? Any other nominations? Well, if there's no further nominations, that's 5 members there. If there's no further nominations, that, excuse me. Supervisor Osmus.
Mr. Chair, as long as we only have 5 people on here, I would move that we cast unanimous vote for Peavy, Peterson, Osnes, Nelson, and Hanson.
I second.
Okay. Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? Have a vote on that. What? Do we have to have a vote on that? Any discussion? No discussion. We have a motion and a second. So all supervisors can vote.
Joe?
Supervisor Ring, you're just acting up. Okay. There it is. Unanimous. Thank you. So we have Tabitha, you're going to put that up so we can, on the screen so we can see all of those? So if you look at the Administration Committee, it'll be Supervisor Berkey, Supervisor Harkinoff, Supervisor Kiesler, Supervisor Schoberg, and Supervisor Schochner. On Public Protection, it'll be Supervisor Brinkman, Supervisor Babbitt, Supervisor Larson, Supervisor Nelson, and Supervisor Nielsen. Community Development, we'll have Supervisor Ring, Supervisor Hanson, Supervisor Berkey, Supervisor Arkanoff, and Supervisor Liebfried. For Transportation, I don't see that yet. I know who it is, but I'll wait till she puts it up there. Okay, in Transportation, we have Supervisor Osnes, Supervisor Peterson, Supervisor Novotny, Supervisor, what? Did I miss that one? Where am I at? Oh, Supervisor Hanson.
Scott Nelson.
And then we have Supervisor Nelson and Supervisor Peavy in transportation. And then the appointments to the Health and Human Services Board are Supervisor Kilbert, Supervisor Babbitt, Supervisor Novotny, Supervisor Anderson, Supervisor Larson, and Supervisor Liebfried. So that's the appointments to committees and boards. Oh, where am I at?
Hey, Roger, at this point, we should designate an organizer of the first committee for each committee.
Yeah. And I haven't, we have, because there aren't any chairs for any of these committees now, we have to have somebody, what do they call that? Convener. We need a convener for those to start. So public protection can be Supervisor Brinkman. Administration, I guess I'm looking for somebody, maybe Supervisor Kiesler, because he's been on committees before. Community development, how about Supervisor Ring? Transportation, Supervisor Peavy.
For HHS,
Health and,
I'll appoint Supervisor Larson.
okay. So we have all conveners appointed now so that we can have meetings. And maybe at this time I should talk about that for a minute. I think maybe at this time it would be important for the committees to probably schedule a meeting as soon as possible when you can get them organized so that you've had meetings before the next county board meeting. I know it's kind of a crunch time, but I think it's important for all the committees to get together so you know your organizations and you can come back with that. So I think maybe at this time, all the committee people and conveners think about that so you can get it set up for quick enough so that you can still come back to the county board meeting May 6th.
You want to be here this month, right?
Right, this month yet before, so you can get it taken care of. Yes, Supervisor Babbitt.
Mr. Chairman, I understand that HHS is already scheduled to meet on May 5th at 8:30, so that meeting has been set.
And you said it isn't scheduled?
No, it has been scheduled for May 5th at 8:30.
Yep.
That was their regularly scheduled
Yep.
meeting time. So if Supervisor Larson, who's the convener of that meeting, wants to keep it at that same time, we can just go with that.
We'll look at that.
Or you can reschedule to a different time.
Yep. Okay, that sounds fine. We'll take a look at that.
Okay.
Is everybody comfortable with that, Supervisor Kiesler?
What, are we looking, are the committees typically locked into certain weeks?
No, you're not locked into any, I mean, regularly scheduled meetings, the committees would meet on a certain day at time, but the committees, usually that's one of their first orders of business is to determine a meeting date and time. So it doesn't, you don't have to stick with the prior schedule at all.
Just look for a time that doesn't, so you don't have public protection, administration, and all of them on the same day. Just kind of try to coordinate that so you get them, so they're not on the same day.
Keep in mind when you're scheduling your committee meetings, the time frame to get any items to the county board meetings, which are currently scheduled the first Tuesdays of the month.
Supervisor Hanson?
Mr. Chair, if I may direct a question. Mr. Chairman, if I may direct a question to Mr. Thompson, are there staff considerations that we need to consider as we're making these committee considerations?
Each of the committees have what we call meeting organizers, and they are made up of a staff person from the various departments. And so what I would suggest doing is that the meeting conveners that have been appointed, maybe we could have a short meeting afterwards and just lock in a meeting time, and then we could also let you know who the meeting organizers are for each of those standing committees. And those are typically staff people from the department that staff the meetings and work on the agendas, provide meeting notices, they take the minutes, they produce the minutes. So we have staff assigned to each of the standing committees.
And my hope is that they'll make themselves available, they'll make every effort to be available, because this is going to be a circumstance which is going to be unusual, different from the regular month to month. Very, very good. Thank you.
Supervisor Franklin.
I already broke my microphone. I would propose to the other members of Public Protection that we meet Friday, the 25th at 8 a.m. That's generally when we have been meeting, is Friday morning. I see Scott might have a concern with that. So I guess we'll go back to the drawing board. That was just a first attempt, so.
Supervisor Peavy.
Yeah, the transportation has a meeting scheduled. We had been the second Monday. Would your goal be then we would schedule a extra meeting between now and the county board meeting, just a basic organizational meeting?
Yes.
Okay, I will.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you. The election of committees and are done. There's no annual department. So now we go into some old and new business. We have some resolutions here. So there's a resolution on the floor. Resolution amending rules and bylaws of the Board of Supervisors of St. Croix County. So the floor is open to that.
Mr. Chairman? Here, turn your mic off. Before, the board has before you proposed amendments to the rules and bylaws. This came forward from the prior Committee on Administration. I don't know if you've had a chance to review the proposed changes to the bylaws. I could review them briefly, but it's at the discretion of the chair.
Would you like the administrator to go over those for everyone? If it's all right. Supervisor Schottner.
I'd like to make a motion to bring this to the floor. I don't think we've done that yet.
Bring it to a vote.
Was it postponed, Cindy?
Is it postponed? Okay, so this is postponed?
It was postponed to now, but we don't have a.
If it was postponed, then you just take it up. Take it up as a.
Is it,
want to check the minutes.
is it postponed to a date? Okay.
It's not postponed. There was no motion at the previous meeting, so it will require a motion. Yeah.
Okay.
I guess I move to bring this to the floor, and then that gets seconded.
I couldn't hear that.
I move to bring this issue to the floor.
Okay.
or the,
Have a second to that? Yeah, Peterson. Supervisor Peterson, second that. To move it to the floor.
Okay. I'll run through the proposed revisions real quickly. Follow along if you can. I'll refer to the article and the section. The first proposed revision is Article 1 under the Board of Supervisors. The amendment to the rules and bylaws are an inclusion of the 4 strategic initiatives identified by the board of continuous improvement, growth management, safety and health, and outreach.
Pat, you have a
Yes.
question?
Yes.
I've got a question.
Yep.
Are you okay that as we're going through these, that they could be discussed as we go? If anybody wants to discuss that?
Certainly, you could do that as I go through them, or you could wait till I go through all of them and then open it up for any discussion. It's your preference.
Mr. Chair, I plan on later making a motion to refer this back to the administration committee for review. But I do think an overview would be helpful, kind of a first reading right now for all of us new members. So I wouldn't want to interrupt that. But with a view that rather than having discussion now, refer it to the administration committee, just because it's a lot to swallow, and I have lots of questions about it. So.
Okay. So we'll go on with the.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I'll go through a quick review, knowing that it's going to be referred back to the administration committee for a review and then a recommendation back to the board. As I said earlier, the Article 1, Section 3, identifying the strategic initiatives of continuous improvement, growth management, safety and health, and outreach. Section 1, under per diems. Number 2, an amendment: in the event a meeting is canceled due to a lack of quorum at the meeting's scheduled date and time, supervisor physically present will receive mileage. Moving forward, to Article 2, there was one revision under Article 2, Section C, number 8, striking the word obviously from protect the board from frivolous motions by refusing to recognize them, striking the word obviously. Moving forward, under Article 4, standing committees of the county board, we inserted language, or the committee recommended inserting language for the strategic plan and strategic initiatives. It changed under Section 1, under the administration committee, changing facility or building services to facilities, and the veteran service office, removing that from the administration committee and reassigning to the Health and Human Services Board. Number 18, inserting the language periodically review the investment policy and recommend changes to the Board of Supervisors for approval. That was number 18. Then under Community Development Committee, updating the names of the divisions under the Community Development Committee. Then moving forward under number 8 and 9, under duties of the Community Development Committee, review and recommend to the county board amendments to St. Croix County Code of Ordinances, and review and take action on waivers to design standards and setback reductions. Number 10, shall act as the county zoning agency pursuant to Wisconsin statute. Then under the Public Protection Committee, we added language that the Public Protection Committee will annually tour the jail with the sheriff and facilities director, which is, abides by state statute. Then moving forward under Article 5, under boards appointed by the administrator, we changed the appointment to April to conform with the county board election of committee schedule. And under board descriptions, under HHS board, designated departments, we have the nursing home and veterans service. Under organization, for the HHS board, we strike the language for secretary because there is no secretary appointed to the HHS board. They have a chair and vice chair. Then moving forward, there's a minor revision to the Joint Standing Committee HHS board meetings. That's on section 5, striking section G4. Okay, moving forward under Article 6, subcommittees, councils of a standing committee or board. We add language for the Community Justice Collaborating Council. And we strike the language on the subcommittees until the CJCC has a chance to redefine their subcommittee structure. Then under Article 8, other appointments by the county administrator, it adds language for the Coordinated Services Team, CST Coordinating Committee. 4 and 5, it adds language on the notice of meetings of the council, and that if there is not a quorum, the county board chair or vice chair may act as a voting member to the council. And then there's a restructuring of just the sections for each of the committees or commissions that the administrator appoints. Just changes the order. See, section 9. Meetings of the county board, it adds the annual department reports to the order of business. And then we insert language in paragraph 5 that in the absence of the resident's supervisor, the county board chair may recognize the resident. And I believe that those are the recommended changes, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. Now, are there any questions at this time? Supervisor.
Mr. Chairman, because there's a big change in the elected officials sitting at this table in this meeting today, I think it's deserving of a comprehensive review of ways of getting government a little bit more open and transparent. That's what we were hearing from our voting public, and so bylaws are a big part of that, and that's why I would refer this to the administration committee to have it thoroughly examined once again. I respect all the work that was gone into it already. I know what it's like to revise bylaws.
Okay, so I have a motion. Supervisor Kessler.
Are you looking for a second? Or can I discuss something before a second is made?
Second.
You have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, then we can get into discussion. Okay, we can go into discussion.
My only question is, in terms of, do we want this as a board to go back to admin or back to the committee of the whole for a more comprehensive review and then to admin and then back here? Just again, from the standpoint that we have so many new folks that wouldn't be sitting on the admin committee so that they could have a chance to have their thoughts also considered.
Waiting for,
I do believe it's going to involve the committee of the whole, either first or second, but we're going to get there again because it's going to be that detailed of a discussion like it was already for these bylaws. So whether it's first or second, no issue. I just don't want us to be voting on it right now.
question, Supervisor Hanson.
It seems to me it would be best to have a smaller group of people dealing with something this complicated. If we were to bring this to the committee of the whole, it may be something where we spend a great deal of time dealing with something that's very complicated and accomplished less than if we have somebody looking at it very, very closely and coming back with recommendations that we can then discuss for action.
I guess I'm hearing what you're saying. Go ahead. Anybody else have any questions? So at this time, it's, from what I'm hearing, you want to read that back? Cindy, they want to go back to administration?
Do you want me to read the motion?
Yep.
I think
I have a
and
motion.
second.
I have a motion by Schoberg, second by Kiesler, to refer this item back to the Administration Committee for a thorough examination.
I guess I would like to amend, can I amend that motion before we act on it? The amendment would be that after it goes to the administration, it goes to the committee of a whole, and then it goes back to administration for action before it comes to the full county board.
Okay, do I have a second to that?
I second.
Okay, Supervisor Kilburg, second that. Any discussion on that amendment? That it'll go to administration, then back to committee of the whole, then back to administration before it comes back to the board. Any further discussion on that? Supervisor Trotner?
I guess I just have a question on why it would be going, if it's going from administration to the committee of the whole, why is it going back to administration?
Well, just to consolidate, if I may address the board, to consolidate those suggestions by the committee of the whole, since I believe that the administration committee is the parent committee related to the bylaws.
Supervisor Nielsen?
I'm all in favor of bringing it back to a committee of the whole. It would be great, I think, to get some sort of a consensus before we actually vote.
Okay. Any other discussion?
Supervisor Schoberg, could you put in a second, please? Your second on the amendment.
I'll second Jill Berkey's. Okay.
Just record that.
Yeah, Cindy, you want to read that amendment so everybody knows?
I have a motion to amend by Supervisor Berkey, second by Supervisor Schoberg, to have the rules and bylaws item after review by administration to go to the committee of the whole and then return to the administration committee for action to bring to the board.
I know I'm not supposed to say a lot, but that seems like a lot of back and forth to me. Well, I would think so. It might be administration committee first, or the committee of the whole. Is there any further discussion on that amendment? You heard what the amendment was? Okay, then I guess If there's no discussion, we'll vote on that.
On the amendment.
On the amendment. Okay, we have 14 to 5, so it'll move forward. Now we go to the, it was stated it'll go forward from the,
Now you're back to the main motion.
You have to vote on the main motion.
yeah, now we have to vote on the main motion, but it'll, the way it's stated in the amendment, it'll go to the administration, then committee of the whole, and back to administration. So now we have to vote on the motion on the floor. Does everybody know what the motion on the floor was? I'll have Cindy read that back. The main motion. It's getting confusing.
As amended.
I'm sorry, I have too much, as Supervisor Osnes said, I have too much stuff in front of me. The motion that was, I had a motion from Schoberg, second by Kiesler, to bring this back to the Administration Committee for an overview and a thorough review. And now that's been amended, am I? Okay, as amended. And so that's the main motion that we have right now that we're acting on. Confirm?
The main motion is to refer it back to admin committee and then to
Committee of the Whole,
and then
back to Administration Committee, yes.
Administration.
Yes.
Everybody understand? Does everybody understand that now? It's going to be going to administration, then to committee of the whole, and then back to administration. So now, is there any discussion? If there's no discussion, we're up to vote. Just get it done. Fifteen to 4. Passed. So now we can move on. To our second resolution of the day, which is resolution authorizing St. Croix River Crossing growth management mitigation funds to purchase countywide LIDAR data. Supervisor
Mr.
Ring.
Chairman?
Oh, Supervisor Ring had the floor.
Okay, go ahead.
Real quick. Okay,
Mr. Chairman, I would like to move adoption, to get this on the floor, and to move adoption of the resolution authorizing the St. Croix River Crossing Growth Management Mitigation Funds to, oops, wrong one. We're good. We're not on LiDAR, it's on that.
Yeah,
Right, we're on
LiDAR's
LiDAR.
the one.
Yeah, all right. Okay, to purchase countywide LiDAR data. And I can explain what the committee's recommendation after.
okay, do we have a second? Supervisor Schachner, second. Now, go ahead.
Just as a little background on this, LiDAR is, let's see, to get it right, county-wide light imaging detection and radar data and analysis. It's an opportunity for us at the county to get 2-foot contours mapping, and it provides really good background information for any sorts of development or natural resource production. It's a very good background piece of information and data. So for all kinds of development and natural resource protection initiatives. So that we have, as part of the St. Croix River Crossing mitigation funding, we are applying for some funding, and then we also had other sources of funding to contribute toward it from the St. Croix River Basin team, the Department of Natural Resources, and then funds that we collect from our records system in the county. So I think we talked about it and made a recommendation at the Community Development Committee.
Okay. Thank you. Pat, do you have some?
Yeah, the breakdown in the funding, as Supervisor Ring mentioned, there's $55,000 of land information fees, which are collected fees, not tax dollars. There's $50,000 of a DNR grant that will be applied towards the purchase. And then there's a $30,000 St. Croix Basin River Crossing grant. And then the actual resolution is requesting authorization for $30,000 of funding from the St. Croix River Crossing Growth Management Mitigation Funds, which by the language contained in the Memorandum of Understanding, the County Board of Supervisors needs to authorize expenditures from that fund. The total cost for the LIDAR project is $165,000, but it's made up of those grant dollars plus the additional $30,000 out of the River Mitigation Fund. This requires a 2/3 vote of the board because it is a budget amendment.
Now it's open for discussion. Supervisor Hanson. What? We did have a second. Yeah, Supervisor Schachner second.
Oh, I went to sleep for a while, sorry.
Mr. Chairman, in reading the resolution, I'm seeing that there's a confusion, at least for me. Line 41 calls the product that we're acquiring software. Line 52 calls it a service. And I'm wondering if we're contracting with a company for a service, if we're actually acquiring software, and the second part of the question is, if we're acquiring software, is it a license? Do we need to pay people to train our people for using the software? How long does the license last? And if it's a service, are we getting a copyright for the service? And when would that expire?
Ellen Denzer, the director of the department, may want to address that. Thanks, Ellen.
Good morning. My name is Ellen Denzer. I'm the Community Development Director. And we are purchasing the flight service. It's aerial photography, and they do the flights and get the 2-foot contours plus additional data. That data then is in that's provided to us is computerized data. Okay, it's not a photograph, which historically aerial photography is a photograph. This will not be a photograph. It'll be literally computerized data, and we already budgeted the $10,000 out of our land information fund to purchase the software to actually utilize that data. And so no, there's no licensing fees. We will be purchasing that. It's basically an add-on to our geographic information system, a module we will add on, and that's the cost. And it will include training. It's already budgeted. Follow up?
Yeah, so what you're buying then is the service of actual aerial photography, so that you can apply that to the software which you've already purchased.
No, we haven't actually purchased the software. We won't need to purchase that till this fall when we get the when we get the data.
And will that be in it? You've already budgeted that.
Yes, we have.
So you're purchasing the service of aerial photography. Is that correct?
Yes.
So can we strike the word software from this resolution, because you won't be purchasing software according to this resolution?
We won't be, we just wanted to make it open and upfront. You can certainly strike that word, but it won't make any difference because, again, that's already budgeted. The software's already budgeted to be purchased at the time we need it.
Right, it's erroneous to this resolution.
That's fine. Any other questions?
Go ahead, Supervisor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. With 10 new people sitting on the committee, I'm wondering if our finance director, on our second page there, when they're talking about the physical impact, you and I had a long discussion yesterday afternoon on this, but I'm wondering if you could just kind of explain how this works to all our new folks.
The St. Croix River Crossing
growth management mitigation funds, St. Croix County acts as the fiscal agent for the states, so we actually are in receipt of all the funds. They're in their own designated fund. The DNR has to approve the authorization of spending of those funds, as does the county board then has to approve the spending of those funds. The timing is, we need the dollars now in order to have this LiDAR flight, so that's why this particular amendment is coming forward. You will see forthcoming budget amendments in the near future outlining the spending of those funds. It's about, the total fund is echoing, 4.7 million.
Satisfactory? Okay. Are there any other questions or discussion?
Right, we still have line 41 saying, whereas countywide LiDAR data acquisition and analysis software will cost $165,000. But this resolution is not about purchasing software. I'm wondering how we can reword this resolution so that it doesn't refer to purchasing software when what we're talking about is contracting for the service of aerial photography.
Mr. Chairman, I would recommend that by striking the word "and analysis software," so it would read, line 41 would read, whereas countywide LiDAR data acquisition will cost the 165, and then line 52, I would leave that alone. It's to purchase LiDAR data collection services. Does that accomplish what you want to do, Supervisor Hanson?
Yes, sir. I just wouldn't like to have a resolution which has a dichotomy built into it.
So,
Supervisor Schoberg?
yeah.
Just a question of privilege for the benefit of the whole body here. I see that this is a resolution, but the words are sponsored by the Community Development Committee. So is this a recommendation from that committee? And if so, it would not have needed a second. But I'm confused as what sponsored by means. Is there a clarification from council
Can
on
we
that
get a
one?
clarification on that?
All resolutions, that's the wording of our, all resolutions are sponsored by one of the standing committees or Health and Human Services Board or the committee as a whole. So that is standard language that we use in all resolutions.
So this is a resolution from the committee. It would not have needed a second. Is that correct?
It does need a second it does need a second to be on the board floor. Yep.
Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry.
I was simply going to ask the chair if I could have the floor quickly, and to ask Supervisor Hanson to make an amendment to the motion as per your previous information.
Thank you, Supervisor Berkey. Actually, what I was about to say is I would move to postpone this to a further certain time. At this time, there seems to be, in my mind at least, a fair amount of questions that I'd like to see just clarified. I'd like to have it read again so that we know, even though it's only $30,000, that we're doing due diligence for our constituents. So I move to postpone this until the next. Can you hear me? I'd like to postpone this until the next county board meeting.
Do I have a second? So Supervisor Babbitt.
Actually, I wanted to discuss the issue, not a second at this time.
Okay. Now we need discussion. You got a second. Supervisor Babbitt, did you second it?
There is now a second?
Yeah.
Okay.
What? I'm confused. There is no second. We don't have a second to that? Then we don't discuss it. I did. I was asking for a second. No seconds? There's no second to that motion that's on the floor? If there's no seconds, we won't have any discussion, so then it'll go back to the original motion. Correct? So now we have the original motion on the floor. And I believe Administrator Thompson made a change in there. Do we have, no, he just recommended that change, but we don't,
Right.
that is not in there. So we still have that motion on the floor. Supervisor Peterson.
I would move that we accept the amended wording as Administrator Thompson has proposed.
Okay, do I have a second to that?
I second that.
Supervisor Osnes, second that. So now, is there any discussion on that with that amended wording to leave out an analyst software? So that's amended. Cindy, do you want to read that back? And we'll have a vote on that. The amendment.
I have a motion by Supervisor Peterson, second by Supervisor Osnes, to strike the wording in line 41 of the resolution. The wording is "and analysis software."
Is there any further discussion on that on the floor? If there's no further discussion, we'll have a vote on that.
Dave,
So
put your second in, please.
we can't. No, we can't. Okay.
Are you voting?
We're voting now. You ready? You clear that. Yes. Supervisor Berkey? Okay. 18-1, so it passed. Now we're back to the main motion. Is there any discussion on the main motion? I can have clerk read that back. Supervisor Brinkman.
I was on community development
Yeah.
with Supervisors Ring and Schochner when this has been heavily discussed. This is actually a pretty cutting-edge piece of equipment for this county to purchase. In fact, one of the reasons we're getting, and Ellen, I may need your help here, because if I screw this up like I sometimes do, one of the reasons we're getting such a good deal on it is because of the fact that there's other counties purchasing it at the same time, and they're going to do all the flights at one time. What this will allow the county to do is it basically takes a picture of the whole county all the way down to 2-foot contours. We're going to be able to sell this service to builders, people looking to developers. So we're going to recoup a lot of these funds, I feel at least, because it is that cutting edge. In my research of this product, there is nothing better out there. And we have a great chance, because of the St. Croix River Crossing project, to use mitigation money for that. I ask that you vote in favor of this. Before you vote no on it, if you still have questions about what LiDAR is, please, somebody hit your button and we'll get Ellen up here to give a better description of it. But I'm telling you, I've spent the better part of 3 hours learning about it, and it's pretty cool. It's cooler than Star Wars was in the 70s, to be honest with you.
I object.
Any other discussion? Or would the supervisor, would you like Ellen to come up and explain more on it? Or is everybody ready to vote? I don't see any. Supervisor Ring.
Just a point on the software, the analytic software, the language we took out. I think that was just intended to be clear. To use this information, you need the software. And so people who buy it. But just a point of clarification.
Okay. Thank you. Now, is everybody comfortable to vote? I believe, I was told it's the 2/3 vote we need.
That is correct.
So we need a 2/3 vote to pass this. So at this time, Cindy, you ready to vote? Okay, we can vote now on this. unanimous on that. Thank you, everyone. Now we have to move on to our next resolution, which is
Mr. Chair?
resolution commitment to
I would like to ask that we take a 5-minute recess. I drank a lot of coffee, so.
Okay. Rest of the supervisors feel the same way. It's been a long day. Take a 5-minute recess. We'll take a 5-minute recess and we'll be back at noon. Back into the upcoming resolution here. So the resolution of, is everybody back in their seats? Nope. Resolution of commitment and support to Wisconsin Department of Transportation, Wisconsin DOT 2014-2018 Transportation Alternative Programs, TAP, the award cycle to develop a county-wide comprehensive bike and pedestrian plan. I will turn it over to the Supervisor Ring.
I would like to move adoption of the resolution of commitment and support for the Wisconsin Department of Transportation 2014-2018 Transportation Alternatives Program, or TAP, award cycle to develop a county-wide comprehensive bike and pedestrian plan. So what this does, it provides the resources. It's a...
Can we?
Pardon? Oh, sorry.
I'll second it.
Motion seconded by Supervisor Schachner. Okay, Agnes. Go ahead.
So just by way of explanation, this resolution, we need this resolution to proceed with the grant application. We have filed there was a preliminary grant application. We have been invited back to apply for this second round, and not everyone who applied did. As part of the St. Croix River Crossing project, there is a $4.7 million bike pedestrian trail that's included in that. And there's a lot of interest in that trail, and I think there's a lot of people interested in taking that and developing a trail system that will connect to that. I think you have in front of you 4 people from the public who would like to speak on the topic. There has been organized, maybe you've seen in the paper, there's a group that's called the St. Croix Bike and Pedestrian Trail Coalition, and they've been very active. This resolution comes with support from several local units of government. Also, we have talked to the Transportation Committee as part of this, because what it is proposing is one plan that would come back to this board for approval if we get funded. So that's just by way of background, and Ellen could provide more detail if the board would like that.
Okay, at this time, then we'll bring forward those people who want to have a comment on this. Dave, do you have those? The first one is a Mark Garrity, is that correct? And we normally limit this to 3 minutes.
I will do that, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for allowing me to speak. Members of the County Board, last time I stood before the St. Croix County Board of Supervisors to talk about bicycles, Norman Anderson was the chairman. And I will say, part way through my talk, when luncheons were still done at the Valley or the Village Inn, one of the supervisors stood up and looked at his watch and said, "Bikes, what do we have to spend money on bikes for?" Well, let me tell you about bikes in the state of Wisconsin. It is a $900 million industry per year, just under $1 billion. Right now, what we're asking is support to apply for this grant. I would ask you, and if you want the link, contact me. Go to Discover Wisconsin, and they have a program, 22 minutes of bicycling in Wisconsin. They deal with Sparta Elroy, or Elroy Sparta. They deal with Menominee. They deal with the Glacial Drumlin Trail down in the southern part of the state. I would ask you also to look at your Google Maps. You don't have to go to Google Earth, but go to Google Maps and hit the filter bicycle and set it for the crossing. And you look at what is in Wisconsin for trails. and you will see virtually nothing. But then go to the west, and it will show up like veins on a body as to what the state of Minnesota has done with a commitment. And that's economic opportunity for you. When the governor was elected in 2010, he talked about that economic growth. Well, if we're talking economic growth, you talk in terms of what is done with people that go bicycling, for instance, the studies that have been done with the Elroy Sparta Trail by Department of Tourism. $30 per person, per day spent in that community. And that's what we're talking about. You've got 3.2 million people that will come if they're able to get across the bridge and go to Hudson, go to Willow River State Park, go to New Richmond, and look at it as looking as the hub of the spoke that goes out. And that's what that crossing is with that loop trail. So the opportunity that you have, the building of community, from the standpoint of being able to, when I spoke, when Chairman Anderson was here, I talked to Ole about the fact that the Chicago Northwestern line, the North Line, was opening up. It was being abandoned. That you could go from literally the North Line station where Durobag was and ride your bicycle, if you established the trail, literally all the way to Turtle Lake. But specifically going from downtown Hudson to downtown New Richmond and on a bicycle. And that's families, that's people that come as tourists, and the tourists spend money. So I would ask you, for economic development purposes, that one thing this coalition has done is brought together individuals who are talking together. And I will advise you that there is a different lexicon that is used between what transportation talks about, what tourism talks about, and what community development talks about. So it's a situation of bringing them all together to start talking, and that's happening. And so I would ask for your support for the TAP grant, because all it is the support to apply for the grant. And we'll be back here again, talking again after, because this is going to be an exciting time for this part of the state. So thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Another one? Tim Wiseman, correct? Is that Wiseman? Okay, thank you.
My name is Tim Witzman. I'm with the St. Croix Bike and Pedestrian Coalition, and I thank the board for taking time to hear our comments about this resolution. Recently I served on a school board in St. Croix County, and one of the things that we looked at was our demographics. And when we looked at demographics, one of the considerations that there wasn't a research company out there that would understand the impact of what was going to happen when that bridge was built. We have that same situation now in the county, because we have a plan that dates back to 2008, the trail plan, or bike and pedestrian plan. And now we're at an opportunity where the bridge is being built and the loop trail will be a part of that. So it's really imperative that now that we have something in place, we have a loop trail, that we move forward with looking at updating that plan. We currently have the opportunity with TAP funds, and these funds are designated for this type of opportunity to update that plan, and I would ask for your support for that, because we're really at a unique situation where we have a lot of enthusiasm and support, and I think as Mark stated, we want to see that the spokes being built that evolve from that loop trail that is going to be built as a part of the river crossing. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I think I have a Mark Venice. Excuse me if I don't pronounce it right.
Thank you, supervisors. I've been involved with the coalition for about a year now, and our attempt was to make it extend into St. Croix County. And you all received one of these sheets today. It talks about our mission and how to reach us through our website and through our email. We've been meeting every month, and we alternated the meetings between the Hudson Library and the town of Somerset. We feel this is just a unique opportunity for us with the loop trail being built right now with the bridge construction. The loop trail won't be constructed until 2017 on the Wisconsin side, and what an opportunity for us to get ready for this. Before we can get ready, plans need to be done. This motion you have in front of you today brings us to that point, that we can do that, get plans developed, and then develop trails throughout the county to connect that loop trail. We don't want the loop trail to stop a circle around Stillwater. We want it to go into Hudson and go into the rest of the county. Now, my support on this, we've heard about economic and everything else. I just think it's a lifestyle that I like, and that's what we're after, a lifestyle like this that we think is healthy, physically healthy for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you. Susan Heisshire, I'm not sure I pronounced that correct.
No one does.
Okay.
You would be unique if you did. I'm Susan
you.
Heiser. I've been a part of the Bike Coalition for almost a year. But the part that I would like to tell you about is I have been looking at grants for communities, for trails, for a couple of years now. And this TAP grant application is unique in that it is 80% funded by federal funds that are administered by the state of Wisconsin. The other 20% you can get other funding for, and Ellen can talk to you about the other 20% that they have gotten. The plan that St. Croix County has in motion here by getting this grant application is going to be essential for all the communities in St. Croix County to access grant monies and to make some real long-term plans that will allow, for instance, the DNR to purchase land as it becomes available. It will allow the DOT to reserve lands as they work on roads. So this plan that they have made application for is simply the cornerstone of the foundation for getting a network of trails throughout St. Croix County. And I have had the privilege to read the grant application, and they have done a very compelling, made a very compelling case for St. Croix County to get this application. And so I would encourage you to vote for this, because this will, for a number of reasons, be very good for St. Croix County, all the communities in St. Croix County. Thank you.
Thank you. We have one more here. Tom Spooner.
My name is Tom Spaniel.
Oh.
I'm a first supervisor at the town of St. Joseph. I'm also the board representative to the Parks, Trails, and Recreation Committee of the town of St. Joseph, as well as the representative to the St. Croix Bike and Pedestrian Trail Coalition. I want to thank the board for allowing me this opportunity to speak in favor of support of this application. The town of St. Joseph is directly in the crosshairs of this. The loop trail that's coming across, it's coming into St. Joe, and it's returning back to Minnesota. Wisconsin cannot gain any economic impact or pleasure if we don't connect to that trail. And we in St. Joe are at the crosshairs. We have to build trails within our town so we can connect to New Richmond, so we can connect to Hudson, so we can connect to Somerset. So if we take a look at the economic potential in the town of St. Joseph today, and we take our 6 businesses, it's not a lot. The people who are going to benefit from building this trail is Hudson and New Richmond and Somerset, certainly a lot more than the town of St. Joseph. But like I said, we're at the crosshairs. The town of St. Joseph has already been granted a $30,000 MOU funding to create our own bike and pedestrian trail plan. The reason we had to create our own is because we need that as we apply for federal grants. There's no way we can build $2 million worth of trails in the town of St. Joseph with our own taxpayers' money. We need the federal grants, of which we can get about 80% of the development of those trails in St. Joe. In addition, we can get a lot of the additional funding from the DNR as well to build those trails. The problem is, or the opportunity I should say, is that we need to be part of a bigger plan. If our plan, the town of St. Joseph, is incorporated as part of the county plan, then quite honestly, we get a lot more points when we apply for federal grants. We're not just an island out there isolated saying, hey, we want to build these couple little 5 or 10 miles worth of trails. We're part of this big county-wide plan. So it's incumbent, or at least we sure think that it's in our benefit to be part of the county, the bigger county plan. You know, sometimes things are just right to do. I mean, look at me. I haven't been on a bike in 50 years. You know, and I probably should be. But the fact of the matter is, this is the right thing to do. So I'm asking you for your support of this resolution. Thank you.
Thank you. Floor is open to discussion now. So Supervisor Navdi.
I'd just like to make one comment. I'm also on the
As the Transportation Committee reviewed this at our last meeting, it was not time to work with the Community Development Committee as they drafted the resolution because of the time frame the state puts on. I believe it's due within a couple of weeks. So I would like to make an amendment that has been endorsed by the Transportation Committee. And this would be starting insert at line number 10. And everybody should have a copy. I passed one out. Whereas the St. Croix County Highway Department has regularly and consistently utilized the current St. Croix County Transportation Bicycle Plan to guide improvements on the county highways for the last 19 years. And whereas the St. Croix County Transportation Committee has reviewed the resolution as supported by the St. Croix County Community Development Committee, and then insert at line 23, further be it resolved that the comprehensive bike plan development will be coordinated with the St. Croix County Highway Department Transportation Enhancement Plan and presented to the County Board for approval. So I move that as an amendment.
Okay. Thank you. And I have a second from Supervisor Osnes. So discussion on that?
The reason for this is first off, to add the Highway Department and the Highway or Transportation Committee's endorsement to the plan, and the County Highway Commissioner Ramberg has concerns that if we do not coordinate, and that's why that word was stuck in the line 23, with the St. Croix County Highway Department Transportation Enhancement Plan, there could be some issues with federal funding and funding that we get. Federal funding that the Highway Department get is designated for transportation, and if it's used for recreation, and I don't know how the feds define those two, the Highway Department would be ineligible for those federal transportation funds. I got a quick number, it's not an accurate number, but that has been over $6 million that they have, the Highway Department has received over the last 10 years. Round number, Mr. Ramberg, like I said, is at a convention and couldn't give the exact numbers, but it's averaging $600,000 a year. And the Transportation Committee believes that this amendment supports the Community Development's plan and still protects any possible loss of transportation aid. So if when we use the word coordinate, the two plans work together, they coordinate, but federal funding on the transportation side is protected. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion to the amendment? No.
I would just ask any comments from the chairman of the Community Development Committee in terms of what someone from the Transportation Committee just said, because they said it doesn't harm it, it enhances it. And from my standpoint, not just because of the folks at the back of the room, but from the, and I don't ride bike either unless it has an engine attached to it. I think it's a no-brainer, quite frankly. We're asked to be visionaries. This is something that is visionary, period, bar none. And so this is something that I wholly support. I would just like to know if there's a comment in response to that this doesn't harm anything.
Our staff, the Community Development Director and the County Administrator met with Tim, the Director of the Highway Department, Commissioner, and the two people from DOT, because there was concern about having this plan in such a way that it would put any funding for transportation projects at risk, and the transportation projects that they're talking about. So this $6 million that Supervisor Peavy has talked about has basically been along routes that are designated. They can be wider. So there is a whole process that you go through to get those wider roads. And it has advantages for cyclists, but it also has advantages from the transportation program. I don't think I have any, I mean, I met with them when I was at the meeting when the Transportation Committee talked about it. I think we hashed through some things. I think in the end, the final whereas, or be it further resolved, whatever plan, any plan would come before this board, which would include both, you know, the transportation enhancements, transportation and bike and pedestrian related trails, that comes here, so I am comfortable with that.
Is there any other discussion? Supervisor Babbitt.
Just briefly, Mr. Chair, when I made the decision to run for office for the county supervisor position, this was one of the first issues that I learned about from several different individuals that I spoke to in the county. And I just want to make it clear that it's obvious to me that a significant amount of time has gone into the thinking and planning around this issue by many, many citizens of this county. And so there are many reasons why we need to support this project, but that's one of them. To basically tell the folks that have worked for years, in some cases, on this plan that we support them.
Thank you. Any other discussion on the amendment now? No further discussion on it? Seconded by, okay. You want to repeat that amendment? Well, that's a long amendment. Does everybody know what the amendment was? Or do you want it repeated? Everybody has a copy, so everybody's comfortable? Okay. And there's no further discussion. It's time to vote. You ready, Cindy? Okay, ready to vote. Unanimous, thank you. Now we can move back to the main motion. Is there any further discussion on the main motion? So we have a motion and a second. Is there no further discussion? Supervisor Nielsen.
I am a biker and have been for a lot of years. I would guess I've been on more state trails than probably anybody else here. I'm very much in supportive of this idea. I would love to see this in St. Croix County. I'm not sure exactly what we're approving here, but if I read the resolution, it says, we agree to enter into all necessary agreements with Wisconsin DOT for the above reference project. And I'm a little confused about what the above reference project is. I don't think we have any specifics yet, and I'm not sure what we're committing to. Maybe somebody can address that and convince me that we should go ahead.
Supervisor Ring.
What it would be a county-wide, so all parts of the county would go through a planning process to identify potential bike routes and what the best form those routes may take. It would be county-led. It is likely to have, we would work with a consultant, but it would be working very closely with all the local units of government because they will have their plans and they are the ones likely to build them. But it's to get a coordinated system. I think if our Community Development Director, Ellen, could add more detail if you'd like that, I'm sure.
Supervisor Nielsen, go ahead.
Yeah, you don't have to convince me. I'm on board, and I would like to see this happen. But my concern is specifically in the therefore. We will enter into all necessary agreements with the Wisconsin DOT. If somebody would like to address that specifically, I'd appreciate it.
So is Ellen going to step forward? Thank you.
Certainly. Basically, the therefore says that we will enter in, if we are awarded the grant, the county board agrees that they will move forward with this project to do a comprehensive countywide bike plan. And the plan, we've said in there that, and in the application, if I was to go through the application indicates that we would do it has a whole scope of work. It looks at safe routes to school, bike pedestrian routes for recreation, bike pedestrian routes for transportation, a complete analysis. It will incorporate all local municipal bike plans. It will also provide information on improvements, cost estimates for specific on-the-ground projects. That's the kind of document we'd be creating. And what that whereas says is that we will commit to that, to doing that project. The grant would be it's in your packet. We don't have that up in front of us, but it's in the packet. There's that little pyramid. If you kind of scroll down below the resolution, and then the grant would be for the $100 and some thousand. We already have $10,000 in the community development budget, and then the other money would be another growth management mitigation dollars, like what you just approved for the LIDAR, which again comes from the money that's been awarded and is controlled by the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources. So that would be the funding package to pay for the comprehensive bike plan. And then you cannot apply for, as the gentleman has spoken to and as Agnes has spoken to, you can't apply for actual enhancement on the ground projects unless you have an approved comprehensive bike plan that's done through this TAP program. Then you can go back to the TAP program and apply for funds, the 80-20 program funds, to actually do improvement projects. Does that kind of help explain it, or more if I'm not quite covering it? Okay.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Ellen. Is there any further discussion? No further discussion? Then we're ready to vote on this resolution. So are you ready, Cindy? What?
We're going to vote on it as amended. We're going to vote on it as amended.
That's amended? Yeah, amended. Yeah, as amended. Yeah, the resolution as amended, so. Ready to? And it was unanimous. Thank you. Now we have one resolution left. Resolution to endorse the concept of merged Pierce St. Croix County, PSAP. Supervisor Kistler, would you like to talk on that or make a motion to? I need a motion to move this forward.
I'll make the motion.
Okay. Thank you, Supervisor Brinkman. And seconded by Supervisor Kiesler. Now it's open for discussion.
Mr. Chair, go ahead.
I yield to the county administrator.
Thank you, Supervisor Brinkman. Just a little bit of background on this. Almost a year ago, it was June of 2013, St. Croix County Board of Supervisors and the Pierce County Board of Supervisors authorized the commissioning of a study, hiring a consultant, Public Service Communications, PSC. Both boards authorized the expenditure of $20,000 each for a total of $40,000 to engage a consultant to study the feasibility of merging both the St. Croix County 911 centers, PSAP, Public Service Answering Point, for both Pierce and St. Croix counties. This resolution is being offered or sponsored by the Public Protection Committee. Both county boards, previous boards, now new boards, the previous county board heard a presentation by the consultant at a committee of the whole meeting. The issue was referred back to the standing committee of the Public Protection Committee. They reviewed a draft resolution, modified the draft resolution that is before you today, which will endorse the concept of a merged PSAP with Pierce County. And it authorizes the expenditure of up to a maximum of $20,000 by St. Croix County to begin implementation of the next phase of the merged PSAP. The Pierce County Board of Supervisors is also meeting today, and they will take up a very similar resolution, and their board will decide today as well whether or not to endorse the concept of a merged PSAP with St. Croix and Pierce to advance the study. So what's before you today is a resolution that has been vetted by the prior Public Protection Committee, authorizing us to further advance the study of the merged PSAPs and allowing an expenditure not to exceed of $20,000 to continue engaged discussions with the consultant to move this forward. Supervisor Brinkman?
I'm just going to tell the rest of my county board members how this resolution came to be where it is. It used to say, starting on, I believe it was line 48, gave the county administration all means necessary to continue forward with this. It took some time, but I found out initially the next step could be as much as $345,000. Breaking that down into 5 steps, the immediate next step is $70,000. I personally wasn't comfortable with that. I made the amendment to change it to read as it is because I don't feel that we're to that stage yet. I feel that Administrator Thompson and Administrative Coordinator Miller from Pierce County, we need to get some ground rules laid. For instance, it says, I believe, is it 62% of the cost? The consultant before said 62% of the business is going to be St. Croix County business, 38 is going to be Pierce County. Was it 62, 38, Pat? Okay, so going forward, are we supposed to pay 62% and they're only going to pay 32%? What about the fact that we just spent close to $2 million on new equipment in our emergency response system? Are they going to buy into that? These are all things that I don't think we need to pay $70,000 to a consultant to. Now, I understand there could be some miscellaneous expenses. That's why I put in $20,000. That's why the resolution reads the way it does, because one of the things that does make this intriguing to me is the fact that to do this merger, there potentially could be a lot of grant money from the state because no other 2 counties in the state of Wisconsin have ever done this. So that makes it appealing to at least look at. But to say we're going to spend $70,000 when they can't tell me if we're paying 62% of that or if we're paying 50% of that, I just think there's a lot of questions that we need to work out between counties. 2 good county partners meeting at the fence in the middle of the field there to figure out how it's going to be done. That's how we ended up at $20,000. And I support this.
Supervisor Osnes?
Either Pat or maybe Kristen's still here too. Andy spoke about the 5 steps. Also sat on the Public Protection Committee meeting, and I did not make the last one. But I'm wondering if somebody could explain to us what the 5 steps are and the costs in each step.
Kristen?
The 5 steps that PSC Alliance indicated would be next in the planning if it's decided to move forward with merger. Number 1, permissions and legislative approvals. And the estimated cost for that was $69,500. Number 2, governance model and commitment, $23,000. Number 3, technology planning, $128,000. Number 4, implementation oversight, $107,000. Number 5, backup and longer range future planning, $48,000. The total is actually $375,500.
Supervisor Osnes?
I got heartburn. I like the idea of the 2 counties merging. I don't really have a problem with that, or at least looking at it. I start seeing some big numbers, and I feel like we're running a marathon. In order to run a marathon, you have to learn how to run. In order to run, you have to learn how to walk. In order to walk, you have to learn how to crawl. And I think this is in a baby step. And I see us way down the road on a marathon to a finish. This is going to take a lot of time. One of the comments that I've had, I live in River Falls, so the city's split between Pierce County and St. Croix County. There's 6 supervisors that sit on the Pierce County Board that live in River Falls, so I've had the opportunity to talk to them also. I think that my first concern, and probably the biggest one, is rather than worrying about governance and legislature and the outside and tech planning, and I've heard over and over and over again, we need to start educating each other. We need to start educating the folks, our EMS folks, our fire departments. They've got concerns on what's going to happen coming out of our dispatch area. And no disrespect to Mr. Anderson and all our good dispatchers down there, I don't have a problem with that at all. I think we're in a big hurry right now, and I'm nervous about that.
Supervisor Trotner?
I guess with the vice chair now, with his concerns, my question is there a point of no return? Where if we go forward with legislation, we pursue step 1, and then we get into step 2, we have to follow through with the rest of it. So if we're nickel and diming, is there a point where we're going to hit where there is no return from what we're doing or what we're trying to endorse here?
That was the concept from, and mind you, this is an estimate from, we asked the consultant that did the feasibility study, we said, what would be your estimated costs to fully implement a merged PSAP between the 2 counties? He provided the total 375, whatever it was. We also asked him then to break that down because of your exact question. It's, if this is a full project, we asked him to break it into phases so that after each phase of the implementation plan, that the boards, Pierce and St. Croix, would have the ability to authorize the next phase. And so it's broken out into 5 phases as best he could so that incrementally the boards could weigh in and say, yes, we agree with, the findings from the governance structure or the infrastructure, and then move forward. So you could always pull back. But, eventually it's almost, you're to the altar. You take the vows, you are married at some point, but You know, that's why it's broken out into steps. You could back off at any point in that 5-phase plan.
Supervisor Hanson?
Mr. Chairman, I'm looking at the resolution, and I see that it's asking us to endorse the concept for a merged Pierce-St. Croix County PSAP. So it doesn't say if we're going to follow the 5 steps. It's asking us to endorse the concept, and I guess I'm seeing that as the event horizon, the point of no return. Once we endorse the concept, we've taken that first step, and we may not be coming back. I think we should consider very, very strongly whether we want to endorse the concept at this moment.
Supervisor Brinkman?
The resolution says that we endorse the concept up to $20,000 in spending of what is proposed to be $375,000 in spending. Again, I think there's a lot of steps that we can figure out internally before we spend $70,000 for another consultant. So I disagree with District 12's supervisor in saying that we're endorsing. All we're doing is saying that we're willing to spend $20,000 on this to further its study.
Supervisor Schachner?
I guess I just have one more question. With the allotment of $20,000, is this considered a budgetary item, and does that mean it requires the whole thing would require a 2/3 vote?
My opinion is that, no, either the $20,000 comes from current appropriated funds, or in the future, if there isn't any funds that are either from the contingency fund or some other budgetary fund, the board, you'd have to have another vote on the expenditure of the $20,000 if it isn't already appropriated. So this doesn't authorize an additional $20,000 of spending. This just sets a limit on it. So the answer is no, it requires a majority vote.
Supervisor Hanson?
Mr. Chairman, I just want to respond to Mr. Brinkman's comment. I'm reading the fiscal impact block of this resolution. Potentially, the fiscal impact is $1.58 million, and it doesn't say the fiscal impact is $20,000. We need to take that into consideration.
Supervisor Osnes? Right back to you.
My first question is, we've already spent $20,000, and we split it. The original consulting fee was $40,000, and we split 50-50 with Pierce County. My second question is, have we talked with Pierce County, Pat? As long as they know that there's going to be an additional $374,000 in consulting fees, who's going to pay what?
We haven't had detailed discussions about how that would be split, how that cost would be divided or shared. No, we have not.
Supervisor Brinkman?
Vice Chair Osnes, that's why the amendment reads the way it does, is so that these two will have those conversations and they will talk about those things to figure out if we're going to go forward with it or not. Now, again, I'm going to say, if you read line, is it 49 or 50? I shut my computer down, I apologize. It says right in there that the fiscal impact before Mr. Thompson has to come back to the board and request more money, which at that time, you can give him more money or you can say, no, we're done, is $20,000 of additional spending. Certainly not the 70 they wanted. It's certainly not the $375,000 for consultants they wanted, okay? We do need to baby step this. I agree wholeheartedly with taking baby steps. This is a way that without spending $70,000 of the county's money, we can have Administrator Thompson and Administrative Coordinator Miller sit down and talk. Until these two figure out some of the, like I said, going forward, are we supposed to pay 62%? Are we going 50-50 on this stuff? Are they willing to pay for the equipment we just bought? I don't know why we need to hire a consultant to find out if Pierce County is willing to pay for equipment that we just bought brand new. It says right in there, it caps the spending at $20,000. Yes, if we continue down this road through 4 more steps after this, we could spend $375,000. I agree, that gives me heartburn also. That is why I put this together this way, to cap the spending at $20,000. I don't know, for the people that were here for the committee of the whole meeting when they presented us the plan, remember what they said? In a best case scenario, we build a building on stilts straddling the St. Croix Pierce County line. Sounds ridiculous. I think that sounds totally ridiculous. But they're saying that's maybe what you should do. We just spent $1.5 million, $2 million redoing our room. We're just going to abandon it? I'm not up for that. That's just $1.5 million of wasted taxpayers' money. What I'm saying is there are so many basic steps here that we don't need to pay consultants to do, that should be hammered out between our administrator, their administrative coordinator, and then come back to the board and let us decide if we're going to continue with this. The $20,000, it's merely for incidental monies. I would actually be disappointed if they spent all $20,000, to be honest with you.
Supervisor Hanson?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I realize now that Supervisor Brinkman and I are talking the same language. Understanding that, I would move that we amend to change the word in line 47, endorses the concept to, it would say, it would read that the St. Croix County Board of Supervisors, this is the change, commit to further study of, strike endorses that we commit to further study of, and then it continue with the word the, concept of. And then that will justify the $20,000 and support that and make sense.
I'm just gonna, doesn't that mean the same thing as what's there? Endorsing the concept. Well, you endorse the concept of it, or you do what he did. I don't know.
I'll second the amendment.
Supervisor Hummer.
I'm sorry, you didn't recognize me. It's whoever you want to recognize.
I'll recognize you. Sorry, sometimes it's hard to catch everybody.
I'll be happy to endorse Mr. Hansen's amendment to the motion to change those words. Second it.
You'll second that motion then? Okay, so we have an amendment on the floor and seconded. I'll have discussion on that. Supervisor Ring.
Okay. Chair. Oh, hi. That's hard to see me over here. My question, and maybe it's more appropriate after we act on the amendment, but what is the timeline for this? Do you have any idea? Supervisor Brinkman or Osnes? Or
maybe
timeline for
completing this study, this $40,000 additional study. When do we get to a point where we take further action?
I would say within a month, I would be able to report back, you know, what the next step in this would be. It depends on what the Pierce County Board decides today. Once I have discussions with Administrative Coordinator Miller and determine what course of action their board approved today. And assuming I get some direction from the board today, the two of us will meet and we'll discuss what those next steps will be, and I'll report back at our May county board meeting or at a future Public Protection Committee meeting. But I'll report back to the full board, most likely in May, as to what our perceived next steps are.
Supervisor Ring.
You know, on the matter of the amendment, I want to endorse the concept. I think it's really important for local units of government to find ways for intergovernmental cooperation. And this stuff is tough. I mean, it's really hard. All those questions, the $370,000 worth of work may or may not be necessary. But I think, on the amendment, I don't want to commit to further study unless I am endorsing that concept. But it still works. I mean, to me, it's both and. So I guess just on the amendment, that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Supervisor Hanson?
Mr. Chairman, in defense of the amendment, I can't, without further, and I was at the committee of the whole, I listened to the entire presentation. Without further understanding of this, I would prefer that the language represent a limited commitment by this body at this time. That's what I would feel comfortable voting for. With the word commit to the concept seems to be, to me, too far-reaching financially at this moment until the due diligence is done by myself as a new county board supervisor, and that's the reason for the limited language at this moment.
Any other discussion? I will. No further discussion? Then I'll have the amendment read back for us.
I may need some clarification on this, and Supervisor Schulberg, I need your second, please. I have a motion to amend by Supervisor Hanson, second by Supervisor Schulberg, and I'm going to start with line 46. Therefore, be it resolved by the St. Croix County Board of Supervisors that it commit further study of the concept of Emerge to Peer St. Croix PSAP, and that it strikes out the word endorses. Okay.
Is there any questions on that amendment? We're voting only on the amendment now. Okay, if there's no questions, then we'll vote. The amendment passed. So now we have to go back to the initial motion with the amendment. And is there any discussion on that now? Supervisor Kiesler.
Just for clarification, because we're trying to catch people up here, that the 1.58 million and the 375.5 are two different figures. And maybe if Kristen could come back up to the podium, if that's all right, Mr. Chair. Because we also seem to have a little bit, I think, of confusion about what this 375.5 is for. The 375.5 is, in my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, Kristen, isn't for consultants. It's to help develop all of the permitting and all of the statutory language, all of the governance. That's going to take a great deal of attorney time. It's going to take work with the state. We have to work it out with the Prairie Island nuclear power plant. There's implications for that. It's a very complex, complicated merger. I believe that there are benefits, cost savings to both counties down the road. I believe there will probably be money to come out to help support this from the state, and I think we want to get in on the early side of that. But is that not true that the 375.5 isn't truly for consultants? Because I think that puts it in a different light. This is for actually hard work that's going to need to be done by probably various attorneys and other professional individuals to get us to a spot where we can decide how the merger will take place and who's going to be doing what, at which point the 1.58 million would then come into play. That these 5 steps may happen somewhat in unison, may happen somewhat in series, I mean parallel versus series. Am I way off, or is that kind of the understanding?
You're not way off. The 375.5, we don't have a lot more detail, except for the numbers that I gave you for each category. Certainly, though, we would need the guidance of a consultant who's already done this with other counties to help us navigate those 5 stages. So yes, there's definitely some consulting involved, but it is for everything, as Ron stated, that would also be necessary. And yes, you're right, the 1.58 is for capital costs, completely separate than the 375. Most of you probably didn't have time to go through the report, but that is detailed on packet page 57. It does show you what the 1.58 is for and what the return on that investment would be. So, and if I may, I just want to also clarify that the expansion of our 911 center was 1.3 million and did not include any equipment. The upgrade of our 911 infrastructure, which is necessary, has not been, we haven't spent dollars on that yet. So for those of you that have time to go down and look at the expansion today, that was just for the expansion, not for infrastructure upgrade, and it was 1.3 million.
Any other questions? Not of Kristen? Thank you, Kristen. Any other discussion now after we've, no other discussion? So now for Supervisor Ring.
I think I hear one supervisor saying, hey, we're maybe putting too much into this and going too fast. Another one saying, no, this is the right step. If we vote this down today, is it done? That would be my question. Then what happens? No more discussions about a joint working together?
It depends on the action that the Pierce County Board takes today. Certainly there will be dialogue between the 2 counties. If this resolution is defeated, probably won't be able to engage any outside assistance to further those discussions, but I would certainly continue the dialogue with Pierce County as to what steps they're going to take, and I would report back to our board and determine whether or not there would be interest by our county, by this county board, to proceed with the implementation plan. So.
Any other discussion? There's no further discussion. We have to have a vote on this as it's amended. So, you ready, Cindy? Okay, so we're ready, so we can vote on this. And the resolution passed 18-1. Thank you. We're about done. Can you believe it? Cindy, do you have anything from the clerks?
I have no correspondence or rezoning requests, but one more reminder to, if you haven't done so, set up your email account in the IT department. before you leave today, and the reason I'm asking you to do that, so we can start using your district emails immediately. So, and I can take you back there who has not been back there because it's secured. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Cindy. Now we're open for announcements. Are there any announcements at this time? There are no. Supervisor Hanson.
Mr. Chairman, I've had the chance to speak with hundreds of constituents over the past few months. There have been many questions about pay for senior management and the administrator. I request that the administration committee review contracts for efficacy and sustainability of all department heads and the administrator. It will be most useful if these questions can be addressed with a report at the June meeting.
We can't talk about this, but I believe I can pass this on to the administration committee. Is that right? Okay, so I will pass this on to the administration committee, but we can't discuss it today. So are there any other announcements? None? I want to thank everybody for putting up with an extremely long meeting today, and we're adjourned. Thank you, everyone.